Thank you, Vincenzo, for those kind words. And as far as the EVCA Symposium app goes, I did have one of the delegates here this morning saying, who's about my age, saying, well, I hope I can download it without the help of 6 people half my age. Good luck, Tim. So it's really amazing, isn't it, how a year has flown by. I can remember very clearly standing up in front of you in Istanbul on the eve of becoming the EVCA chairman and talking about all the things that I hope to achieve as the first EVCA chairman, particularly from the LP Platform Council. And amazingly, here we are 12 months later, and I'm standing here on the eve of handing over my chairmanship to my successor and becoming the past chairman, or as my wife says, the past-it chairman. And I just wanted to reflect several things on what's happened during the past year of my chairmanship. And I've put the notable events into 5 categories. The first is political advocacy and engagement. The second is industry promotion and research. The third is membership contact and recruitment. The fourth is internal management at the EVCA. And fifth, and perhaps most importantly, planning for the future. So taking these in turn, there's been a continual engagement by the EVCA Secretariat with the political community and the policymakers in Brussels at the European Commission and in the Parliament, guided by the ever-watchful Public Affairs Executive. And there's been a regular engagement with the national venture capital and private equity associations of Europe and those which are further afield. And during my tenure, of course, there's been the actual implementation or start date of the Alternative Investment Fund Managers Directive on July 22nd, 2013, which has kept many of the lawyers and the accountants of the general partners and limited partners busy. And I guess I would say it still remains to be seen how beneficial the AIFMD will be to its end users. Of course, more recently, we've had the elections for the European Parliament, which was on May the 22nd of this year, with its lurch to perhaps more extreme political views, certainly a splintering of those political views. And how the EVCA reacts to this development is one of the key initiatives for the EVCA communications team in the coming year. On the second point of industry promotion and research, there's been numerous industry events and speaking engagements by various members of the EVCA Secretariat and myself here in Europe as well as abroad. And these conference speaking opportunities have consistently reinforced the message about the valuable contribution that venture capital and private equity plays to make the European economy stronger in terms of job creation, security, economic growth, and innovation. And this is backed up by the rigorous research that has been commissioned by the EVCA as well. Most importantly, membership recruitment and retention remains vital to the future of the EVCA. We reached out to the EVCA membership and the investor community through multiple workshops and events such as the Investors Forum in Geneva, the Responsible Investment Summit in Brussels, the CFO-COO Conference, the Venture Capital Forum, which is held in Berlin, and 7 chairman's dinners, which I've hosted, which have been held over the year in Stockholm, Zurich, Frankfurt, Madrid, Amsterdam, Paris, and London, which has been a great opportunity for myself and Dorda and the other key members of the EVCA Secretariat to hear firsthand from our members in those particular countries how they see the role of the EVCA and what more can the EVCA do for their membership. All of these dinners and events were very well attended, and long may that continue. We also undertook an LP outreach program in Japan, South Korea, and China last year, which was also extremely well received by the attendees and all the countries we visited and their investor communities. We've worked really hard to establish a first-class team of professionals at the EVCA. It now numbers 25 strong and is ably led by Dorda Hopner, the EVCA Secretariat, who has refined the team over the year and continue, I think, now to provide a premier-level service to its members. I've also been fortunate to chair a number of the EVCA Board of Directors meetings and also the Public Affairs Executive, largely held in Brussels and which have been very productive. I can also say that I've also achieved carte blanche status on my Eurostar and over the number of train journeys that I've taken from London to Brussels in the past year. Now, as for the future, there are a number of projects which will be carried forward by the new chairman and ably assisted by the Secretariat. And I'm sure Dorda will be saying a few words about these in regards at the OGM later today, at which I encourage all our members here present to attend. One point I would like to make is that the EVCA is financially well-resourced organization with a very strong balance sheet. It has a very supportive membership and with a dynamic board of directors. The 4 membership categories we have of venture capital, mid-market, large buyout, and limited partner, represented by the platform councils, have functioned extremely well during the past year, which I think has enabled the EVCA to represent its diverse member interests well. And there are a number of strategic initiatives in which the EVCA are investing its reserves, such as the European Database Initiative and the commissioning of new original research. Now, for me, over the past 12 months, I now have a much greater appreciation and respect for all that the EVCA does and its members who serve selflessly on a number of important committees, such as the Public Affairs Executive, the Tax, Legal, and Regulatory Committee, the Professional Standards Committee, the Communications Advisory Group, and I could go on. And I'd like, at this point in time, to thank all of those members here present who serve on those committees for their dedication and their time. I also have a tremendous respect and admiration for all of you that have been concerned and sit on the EVCA board, and I'd like to thank you as well for your valuable contribution during the past year. I am proud to be associated with the EVCA, and it's been a real honor for me to be the chairman for the past year. And I'd like to thank you very much for your confidence in electing me as the chairman for the EVCA. But before I sit down, I just thought, as I was reflecting on the way here, how much has venture capital and private equity really affected my life? And so I sat down and wrote down how much it plays in our essential role in our lives and whether we realize it or not. Now, many ordinary people in the street would probably struggle to name a venture capital or a private equity firm, a GP, but I'm sure they could name a dozen or more different products or goods and services they use every day that are backed by or invested in by private equity or venture capitalists, but they just don't know it. And in fact, these companies are everywhere in our lives, from healthcare, information technology, energy production, leisure activities, travel, and manufacturing. And venture capital and private equity firms influence the future trends of society through their innovation, their investment in growth, the long-term financing that provides jobs and ultimately contributes to economic prosperity. And indeed, we find these goods and services ubiquitous in our everyday lives. So in order to demonstrate this omnipresence of the venture capital and private equity in our lives, I decided to spend one day noting down every private equity and product and service that I've used, which is owned or previously owned by a venture capitalist or a private equity firm. So all the companies that I name check in the next 5 minutes meet that definition of being owned by private equity. So yesterday I was awakened at 6 in the morning by my alarm clock, which had been purchased at Maplin Electronics. I had a quick bath in my ideal standard bath, followed by cleaning my teeth with toothpaste and toothbrush that was purchased at Boots. I switched on the TV, which was also purchased at Maplin, to watch the Weather Channel, while I pulled on my Jaeger shirt and tie, put on my Hugo Boss suit, and my office shoes, and a quick cup of tea made with my kettle purchased at Hobbs, and a bowl of Weetabix. It had me bounding down the steps to my car. Now, as I drove my Aston Martin to the railway station, by the way, that's fantasy, actually. I listened overnight to my voice messages on my Virtue mobile phone, that's another fantasy, which I purchased at Phones for You, and I connected to the EE network. I checked my pocket to make sure my train ticket was there, having purchased it online the night before on thetrainline.com. I also reflected that I was glad that I had my AA, Automobile Association, and RAC memberships, since you never know what can happen on the road. Now, once I was on the train, I revised the latest draft of my EVCA Symposium remarks. I was eating a small bag of healthy nuts, which I'd bought from Holland and Barrett. I then took a few minutes before the train arrived to play Candy Crush Saga on my iPad. And using Halo, I booked a taxi on my mobile phone to collect me at the railway station and take me to my offices in Berkeley Square. Now, after my first few meetings of the day, with notes taken in my moleskin notebook, it was time to visit the Fitness First gym in our office block, which is enabling me to keep up my training for the Isle of Man Marathon in August. And I stopped into Pret a Manger on the way back to the office to buy a coffee and a bottle of water. And as I was walking back, it occurred to me, like most men my age, it's my wife's birthday soon. And I wondered, what would she like? Something from La Senza? Agent Provocateur? Or maybe New Look? Now, perhaps we can go see a film at the Odeon UCI or at View Cinema. Or maybe we can go to a show at one of the theaters owned by ATG. And then a quiet dinner at the Ladoni restaurant to finish off a perfect evening. Well, my daydreaming was interrupted by my realization that I'd also need some foreign currency for my trip to Vienna. So I stopped in at Travelex and booked to pick up some euros. And I also made a mental note to book a room at the Hilton Hotels and a rental car through Zipcars. And before heading back to the office, I made a quick stop at Eat to pick up a sandwich for lunch. So I was now back in the office, and I downloaded some files onto Dropbox. I ordered a photo montage from Photobox. I also completed an online hotel review, usual complaints, prepared by SurveyMonkey. And I couldn't resist going onto the Betfair website to check on the odds of England winning the World Cup, which are not good, and who was favorite to win the next Formula One race, which is being held here in Austria on June the 22nd. Later in the afternoon, I ordered an Addison Lee taxi in order to take me to my next meeting on time. And while sitting in the taxi, I quickly went online and ordered a birthday card for my wife using moonpig.com. And I also realized it's my eldest son's birthday soon, and so I still had time to stop off and buy him a present. So I stopped at the Go Outdoors store to buy him a pair of waterproof boots and a tent as he's planning to go to some of the festivals here in the UK during the summer. He's also thinking about renting a flat in London after he finishes university, so I made a mental note to contact Foxtons next week to see what the London rental marketplace might be like. Back in the office after my meeting, I enjoyed a cup of tea with a Jaffa cake. I went online again to look at the summer holiday options and looked at the websites of lastminute.com, Skyscanner, Center Parks, and Opodo. And then looking at my Tag Heuer watch, I realized it was time to head home. At the railway station, I strode past Burger King and the West Cornwall Pasty Company, resisting the temptation to stop. And on the train, I read an interesting article on the outlook for private equity investing in Forbes magazine, and I accepted a Facebook invitation for dinner from a friend whilst checking my Twitter account and my LinkedIn profile. In the evening, I decided to go to Ask with my wife for a simple meal, having considered Byron burgers and Wagamama. And sitting at our table, I used my Shazam app to help me recall the music that was playing in the restaurant. Walking back home, we picked up some Maryland cookies as a late-night treat. One more look at the WeatherBug app to see what tomorrow's weather would be before it was time to go to bed in our bed purchased at DFS. And that was it for another day in the life of George Anson. Now, I'm certain that there are other private equity products and services that are used directly or indirectly throughout my day, but this just really gives you a sense of how entwined and vital private equity is in our everyday lives, even though the mechanics may at times seem mundane or disconnected from our lives. So as for the future of the EVCA, my words here are what I think the EVCA stands for and what is important going forward. Most important is for the EVCA to stay relevant, not only for its members, but to the communications and services that it provides to the external community. Because today, the EVCA is not a jolly members society who sit around talking about deal flow. The EVCA today is a serious, grown-up, political advocacy organization. And to illustrate my point, the EVCA is the 6th largest trade association in Brussels, out of 1,600 trade associations there, and that's measured by revenue. It's also the largest private equity membership organization in the world. And for those of you here today, I think those are two important facts as to how important and relevant the EVCA is to all of you. So to the new Chairman Ann Glover, I wish her every success in the coming year, and I dearly hope that the EVCA continues its aim to be the go-to organization in Europe for knowledge, for information, for research and advocacy, and above all, acting in the best interests of its members. Thank you very much.